G'day there guys, how's it going? It's Markee, back at it again with another episode of r/EntitledPeople. Now your Aussie Hubby wants you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good content. Posted by user MuggleTeacheress. Titled, I donated €5. Now you have to do whatever I want. I'm a female musician from Germany, long-time lurker, first-time poster. Every summer, I travel to the Baltic Sea and make street music. This is just one of many, many stories. One day in 2018, I was 26 at the time, I played in a shopping street in Rostock, Germany. It was just me and my guitar. Business was going quite well. There was this one guy who listened for a while and then put €5 into my guitar bag. Many people like to talk to me about my music for a while. Usually I chat a little bit and then go on with my music. However, this guy wouldn't leave me alone. He wanted me to play a special song for him. I did, and afterwards I tried to play my own music again, which he didn't like at all. Every time I started playing, he grabbed my guitar and would accidentally touch my breast in the process. He told me that since he gave me so much money, I'm supposed to play whatever he wants. He said that usually he gets more of women he gives money to, and also that he usually sticks the money in other places other than their guitar bag. Ew. I kindly asked him to leave, but he wouldn't. I switched places several times, and he kept following me, until another guy offered his help. Guy 2 made Guy 1 leave. Apparently Guy 2 was a musician as well, so he asked me if I was interested in busking together the next day. I kindly declined, but he kept on insisting that I would make more money with him. At this point, I just started playing music again, thinking that he would leave. He didn't. He stood directly behind me in order to protect me from Guy 1. I could feel his breath. Eventually, I gave up for the day. The next day, my male band colleague joined me. From then on, there were only nice people enjoying our music. This is just one of many, many stories. There are still so many men who think that you can buy a woman. All I want is to make my music, earn money from my holiday, and increase my audience. But something like this happens when I play alone almost every single time. Posted by user Painsomnia. Titled, Racist Karen Bites Off More Than She Can Chew. Just read another story here about a racist woman doing typical racist crap, and it reminded me of this incident from many years ago. I was sitting in the waiting room of a free GP clinic in Australia, and they had several big TV screens. Free clinic equals long wait, so we were all watching the US election results coming in, Obama's first win. I'm a young white woman and this Karen, sitting 2 seats down from me, fiddling with a large gold crucifix around her neck, did that obnoxious thing far too many racist white people do, where they say racist crap to other white people, trying to get them to agree. I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was something about black Americans only voting for Obama because he was one of their kind. That's disgusting. I told her straight that that was a pretty racist thing to say. She went quiet and then moved to another row of seats a little further down from me, but kept glancing at me like she wanted to say something, and I just ignored her. Maybe 10 minutes passed, and a young mom with 2 kids in tow came and sat a couple seats down from me. She was black, spoke with an accent I didn't recognize, and was clearly having a rough day. We got to chatting, and she told me about her kids, her life stresses, etc. It seemed like she really needed someone to talk to, and I was happy to be able to listen. She asked if I was from here, and I said no. I'm from England. I joked about how I like it here much better. I asked, how about you? And she looked uncomfortable for a moment before hesitantly saying she was from Kenya. We chatted some more, and then she got up to take one of the kids to the bathroom. While she was sorting out her bag on the seat, Karen, who'd been eavesdropping on our conversation, leaned over and said, weirdly loudly, "You do know she's lying to you, right? They're all like that. She's really not from Kenya. They just tell you that because they don't want you to know they're from some war-torn African craphole." And I was stunned. It's not common for me to be shocked into silence these days, but back then, that kind of brazen bigotry caught me entirely off guard. The young mum whipped around and snapped back at her. You think I'm ashamed of where I'm from, just because you think I should be? How dare you judge me? God be merciful on your soul, because your bigotry is sin. Shame on you. And she left for the bathroom before Karen could even stammer out a, "Well, I never." It was amazing. Karen turned around to me and said, "You see what I mean?" And I said, "What the hell is wrong with you? Mind your own fudging business." She huffed and moved further away, but as soon as she went to sit down again, a receptionist, who'd obviously heard Karen's weirdly loud attempt at, I guess, exposing the young mum, kicked her out for harassing other patients. Naturally, Karen tried to refuse to leave, but the receptionist handled her like the experienced professional she clearly was and put an immediate stop to that bullcrap. I told the young mum about Karen getting kicked out, and she returned and seemed genuinely surprised. It sucks that she had reason to expect not to be backed up in that kind of situation. Posted by user Faco5045, titled, "You Disowned Me. So, that's no reason for keeping us out of your wedding?" So, not my story, but my best friend I'll call JJ, and this happened about 2 years ago. I have his permission to post it. JJ came out to his family when he was about 27 years old. Aside from them, everyone else in his life knew he was gay, and there was a good reason for it. As he expected, his parents reacted horribly to the news and basically disowned him at that moment. They later told both extended families, and his uncles and grandparents cut him off too. His maternal grandmother went as far as to try to take him out of his dead maternal grandfather's will. She failed due to the will's conditions. No one could modify it, not even the main representative, aka Grandma, and homosexuality was not listed in conditions that could make the inheritance void. Or Grandpa didn't expect it to happen, or he just did not care. Take your guess. JJ was legally the partial owner of some properties and also got a substantial amount of money, which got even bigger when he reclaimed in cash his corresponding share of the houses, which forced his family to buy them from him. The other option was losing the properties in a public sale, as stated by our country's laws. JJ didn't need the money actually. By this point, he was a moderately successful professional and lived in his own apartment, but it severed any legal binding he had with his family that could become a problem in the future. He still kept good relationships with his sister and most of his cousins, but even if they invited him to family gatherings, he always declined. Fast forward 3 years, and JJ is getting married to his longtime boyfriend Sky, whose family was the polar opposite of JJ's. When they found out, they made the royal wedding style plans for the guy's elopement. They were, are, very wealthy, and JJ contributed to the whole extravaganza with a portion of his inheritance. He invited as his guests his friends, including here yours truly as his best man, some co-workers, his sister, and the cousins he still spoke to. Don't get me wrong, it was a lot of people. The wedding was amazing, done in an underground, literally speaking. It was a frickin' cave venue. His sister took him to the altar, there was an orchestra playing, etc. Fairy tale style. And the after party, well, I can't remember half of it because I was so drunk, but it was from another world. They said go big or go home, and they went really big. But enough of the context, you came here for the juicy part. JJ told the good cousins not to tell anything to his parents or other family members about the wedding, because he didn't want trouble. But obviously the next day, their social media accounts were full of pictures and word spread out like fire. At first it was small things. He started receiving calls of some aunts about why they weren't invited. The bad cousins complained via Facebook and other nuisances. He just ignored them and blocked numbers and accounts. He did not want or need to give explanations when they had all made clear their position years prior. But one day, hell came directly to the door. His parents, P and M, his maternal grandmother, and his paternal grandparents, all the heads of the families, came to visit. How they found where he lived is still a mystery to him. Sky was working and JJ was alone in the house, so there was no one to help him against the crook squad. His name, not mine. I can't actually transcript because he didn't use exact words when he told me this, but it seems at first they tried to be gentle, asking how they could leave them out of such an important event that directly affected the family. Dudes, really? And things like that. His mum even used the "you took my chance away of seeing my only male son marriage" argument. He pointed out that they were the ones that expelled him from the family and that they hated everything gay. Half of that wedding was LGBT crowd, if you're wondering. They classified his exile as a misunderstanding. The bickering between the six continued for a long time until he got tired and asked what they wanted, as he could not redo the wedding. MG spilled the beans. Ungrateful brat. At least compensate us for not inviting us to a wedding that we paid for. That was the problem. Maternal grandmother and his parents were mad that he had used the family money on the ceremony. He told me they actually thought he paid for everything and had burnt out all the inheritance when it was more of a 30 to 40% of the deal. Sky's family paid more and JJ still had inheritance money, and they wanted it back. They had brought the paternal grandparents with them as an additional emotional leverage. As I told you earlier, JJ had made sure that money had no legal bindings to his family anymore, but for some reason they still believed it was theirs to a point and were mad that he had spent it. He confronted them and they threw away their facade. What came next was a serious fight in which both JJ and his father ended up hitting each other until the neighbors called the police. Charges were pressed on both sides, but in the end the case was declared a tie. Don't ask me how that was possible because I don't know. And JJ was not forced to pay 1 cent. He was also able to ask for restraining orders against all of them. Till this day, JJ is still shaken about the event. He had prepared himself for years, knowing that his family would hate him because of his sexuality, but he still retained some hope that far in the future they could mend things up. He lost that hope after they tried to emotionally scam him. Thanks for reading. Posted by user Chaos Kitten. Titled, "You Can't Have Breasts Bigger Than Mine." I'm adopted, and my adoptive mother has always been very thin. She's currently a size 6 and freaking out that she's morbidly obese. Needless to say, I did not have the best relationship to food and weight growing up. I hit puberty early and blossomed with hips, butt, and breasts. By the time I was 14, I was 130 pounds with rather large breasts. I was measured as a triple D at a bra store. My mother refused to believe this and completely freaked out, because it was utterly unreasonable that I'd have bigger breasts than her. I would have to cut my breasts with my hands to prevent them from spilling out of the bra when I bent over. I couldn't run or jump without them bouncing out. My mother thought that this meant I needed an underwire bra, and so she bought me a bunch, and insisted I wear them rather than the less painful non-wired bras. Do you have any idea how uncomfortable it is to be wearing an A-cup when you're triple D? I literally have scars under my breasts, and it decides of them from the underwire digging in so deeply. It's been years, and I'm still not over it. I'm still very bitter and upset. Every time I look at myself naked in the mirror, I see those scars on my side and I get angry. Posted by user Alula. Titled, "I pay rent, so I own this house." Thought this would fit here. English is not my maternal language. Backstory. My parents used to own a house on a big land. When my other siblings went away for college, the house felt too big for our needs. So my parents decided to sell the house, but not all the land. They built a smaller house on the part of the land that they didn't sell. A few years after, we moved to a city 2 hours away and kept the house as a place to go during the summer. My parents decided to rent the house as it was well located and had a really nice view. Renting it meant that they could use the money towards the mortgage and taxes. In enters our Karen. Karen and her boyfriend rented the place so she could be closer to her work. From the start, my dad made it clear. The place was meant for rent, and my parents planned on living in that house after retiring. At the time, both of them planned to work for at least another 20 plus years. They would, of course, notify Karen in advance when they wanted to take back the house, so she would have plenty of time to find a new place. In return, they asked she notify them in advance should she wish to move out, so they could find a new renter. The lease also stated that my parents would have some of their things in a locked storage in the basement as well as in a shed on the property, and that they would always call Karen before dropping by to get something out of the storage, which was in the basement and connected by the garage so they wouldn't even disturb Karen. For a few years, Karen was an okay renter. She paid the rent through a check each month, she smoked inside, and didn't take care of the land. But my dad didn't make a fuss about it. Real trouble started after around 12 years. Every few months, Karen's checks would bounce back. My dad would call her to ask about it. Karen would profusely apologize and rectify the situation. Then it became every other month until it was every month. Finally, my dad had enough and called her about the lease and the rent. During the call, Karen argued that since she had been paying rent for the past 12 years, the house was now hers. My dad was shocked, since that came out of nowhere. She tried to explain to her that she was renting the place like they had agreed on since the beginning. Karen went on a big fit about how she had paid so much over the years and she was the one living there and taking care of the place, which she was not at all. Therefore, it should be hers. She threatened to take my dad to court. Now, where I live, there are many laws which protect the renter, and it can be a real bear to deal with when you have a nasty renter. My dad hired a lawyer to make sure everything was in order. After a meeting with Karen, where the lawyer was present, she realized she didn't have much of a case since all paperwork concerning the house was at my dad's name, and the original lease clearly stated that it was a rental. My dad offered her to stop renting should she wish to after the whole debacle, but she wanted to stay in the house. He made her sign a new lease where it stated again that this was a rental, and that should she not pay or cause trouble again, my dad would give her the shortest possible notice of eviction allowed by the law. Karen's is still renting the house after almost 20 years. My parents are not close to retiring yet. Do hope it won't turn into a crap show when they decide to take back the house. Edit. The question, why did your dad let her sign a new lease? Comes up a lot in the comments. I will say what I answered through the comments. 1. I don't have the slightest clue why he would do that. As I was a kid much younger when this happened, I wasn't kept in the loop much. It was also not the reaction I would expect my dad to have, since he was respectful to others and expects the same in return. 2. I do know the legal actions he took when she threatened to take him to court did protect himself and many future problems that might arise. I do appreciate all the concern and the advice, although I do think my dad had a good reason to keep her as a tenant from hell after everything that went down. Posted by user Negative Barracuda, titled, You invited us camping, so that meant you were supplying everything. Went camping this weekend with a group of friends. Not our usual crew, but a bunch of them said they wanted to go and wanted to learn about how to camp. Okay, sure, no problem. We discussed logistics such as sleeping arrangements, food, dates, activities, etc. We gave them a list of the things that they needed to bring, and if they didn't have those things, they should let us know. We got to our camping location a day early and set up. Chilled. Had some good food. It was nice. The rest of the camping group shows up, and 2 of the people literally just have the clothes on their backs. I offer to help them find a spot to set up their tent, since it was supposed to rain the next day. They're like, You didn't set that up yet? No, where's your gear? You invited us camping, you were supposed to bring everything we needed. Guys, they literally just had the clothes they were wearing and nothing else. I called the rest of the group over to discuss this, pulled out my phone, and verified they had been told to bring stuff. I even showed them the texts and asked them why they didn't say anything in the group chat about not having camping supplies. You said you had spare stuff, so we didn't need to get anything. Yeah, but you had to tell us so we could bring it. They were super ticked when we didn't give them our main tent. They had to sleep in ragtag thrown together spare stuff that everyone contributed. I had 1 spare sleeping bag, no extra air mattress, etc. So they were basically sleeping on the ground. Everyone shipped in spare clothes, warm socks, and even spare boots since it was so cold at night. But he never did get both boots back. Just one. We have no idea where the other went. Oh, but you bet your ass those two brought weed, got hella stoned, then got caught going through my fudging cooler for food, and had the audacity to complain about the terrible snack selection. Yeah, I'm celiac, motherfrickers. My main snacks are literally hidden because of a box of cookies cost me $5, and my wallet cries. So no, I don't have a bunch of stoner snacks around. These guys even expected me to feed them for 3 days and wanted better snacks for next time. I always buy too many eggs, so thankfully I made omelets 2 days in a row, which one guy refused to eat, asking if I could make him something else. We told them to just go home at this point, but we were camping 6 hours away from home and they didn't want to drive all the way back without actually getting to camp. These guys are usually pretty stellar, but it seems it just took the right situation to see their true colors. They began asking about our next camping trip and where we plan to go and if we plan to bring any ATVs or boating stuff for that trip. Answer, no. Posted by user Lemmy the Lemon, titled, Entitled Family Sat in VIP Seats They Refused to Pay For. Note, I thought of posting this on r/entitled parents, but the youngest person in that family was probably in his 20s, so I thought this would fit here. Also, this is my first post here, so I hope it's good. Story. So this happened when I went on a trip with my family to China before the corona. We went to see a show where we sat in VIP seats. Everything went well until we went to our seats and discovered the entire family was sitting at our seats. Someone who worked there tried to tell the entitled family to move, and they didn't. We managed to get them away because they were from the same country as us, and when we talked to them in our language, they were so shocked that we knew what they were saying this whole time, and so they finally went to sit somewhere else. But instead of going to their seats, they just sat in another VIP seats again. The person who worked talked to them again. This is how the conversation went. Miss, sir, these are not your seats. Please pay for the full VIP price or go to your actual seats. But these are our seats. We paid for VIP. No, you didn't. Now, you either pay more or go to your seats or I will call security. But we paid for these seats. The entitled family continued arguing with the workers until the show began. At this point, the staff members had enough and called security. When entitled family realized that the security was actually there, they finally moved to their own seats. Posted by user Loser Smalls, titled, What do you mean I can't look at the food? So this happened like a month ago, and I'm still shocked at how entitled some people can be. This all happened in the span of like 5 minutes. My dad and I went to grab some food one night at Panda Express. With everything going on right now, where I live, Panda does not allow people to go up to the food window things anymore, and you have to order at the entrance. At the entrance, they have a menu with the food they have, so you at least have an idea of what you want. To avoid people going up to the windows, they use chairs to block the path. So my dad and I were waiting for our food, when a guy came in, looked like 50s or 60s in an electric wheelchair, and just drove in the direction of the windows with no sign of stopping. He rammed into a few chairs before the employee came out asking him to stop. The guy stops and just stares at her and says in the most disgusted and annoyed "What?" I have ever heard. Their conversation went a little like, "Sir, I'm sorry, but we can't have people go up to the windows right now due to the virus outbreak. What do you mean I can't go up there? I want to look at what you guys have." "I understand, sir, and I apologize for the inconvenience, but it's a health safety precaution we're taking to minimize the risk of potentially spreading the virus." "I don't care. You need to let me see what food you have. Let me pass, or I'll have you fired." Classic entitled person line. "I can't do that, sir, but I could let you speak to the manager if you really want to." "Screw your manager. I want to see what food you have." "We have menus right here if you'd like to see one, to get an idea of what you'd like to have." "No, I want to see the food with my own eyes. Let me pass. You're violating my rights." After more back and forth, he finally agreed to look at a menu and ordered. For context, There was a sign that cash was allowed, but that debit or credit was preferred. Oh, so now you're going to tell me that I'm not allowed to pay with cash? No, sir. Cash is allowed, but debit or credit is preferred. So now you're going to make me feel ashamed for paying with cash. You're trying to make me feel guilty for not having a credit card. Not at all. I was simply correcting you and informing you on payment methods. Whatever, I'm paying in cash. Unless it's an inconvenience for you. I know you just don't want to count money, so that's why you want me to pay with card. You people get lazier every day. What? No, I was just whatever. After he said that, he pulls out the biggest bag of coins I've seen and just dumps it on a table that was displaying cookies and drinks, and he starts counting out dimes and nickels to pay. Oh, and before anyone says, what if that's the only money he had, I'm gonna add that he had bills in that bag too. The employee looks at the pile of coins with a face of disbelief and looks over at me. I just shook my damn head. Seconds later, we got our food and left, so I didn't see what happened after. Normally, when I see people counting out coins to try and pay, I was raised to ask if they want some help to pay for their food. But this guy, he was an exception. 1, he disrespected the employee. 2, he purposefully was paying with coins when he had a good amount of bills. And 3, his attitude is just gross. To all who work in retail, food, etc., my condolences go out to you guys because of all the entitled people you have to deal with. This story isn't insane as some of the ones I've seen, but I thought it would be cool to post it. Alright guys, that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to tell me what you thought about it down in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, also don't forget to subscribe. It would really help out with my channel growth. And also, a huge shout out to my channel patrons and members. I just love you guys and thank you for supporting me on this journey. If you guys are new to the channel and you'd like to support me, links are down below for the Patreon, or you can click the join button next to subscribe if you'd like to become a channel member. Alright guys, that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.